Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is a sponsored video sponsored by Vincent for Althena, and here is her story. Hi, Ollie. I don't mind using of names provided. It is your discretion which you choose to use them. I also apologize for the extremely long email. I came across your YouTube channel a couple weeks ago. I've seen a few other channels and websites that address the subject of narcissism, and your channel is in my top 3 for resources, information, and support. I particularly appreciate that you have pegged a lot of these narcs as being bisexual or secretly gay, being products of families that are borderline incestuous, and that you call it as you say it, and don't give a hoot if the sender wants to hear it or not. I also enjoy listening to how you present your take on the situation, how the situation presents itself. We have to have some sense of humor to survive the insanity we went through with these individuals. I'll provide a little backstory where I am at currently, and then ask for your advice on how I should continue. I will not present myself to be a perfect person. I'm a 36-year-old recovering addict and mother of 2 boys. My sons are aged 12 and almost 4. My oldest son lives in Tennessee with his father, who is my ex-husband. I can say that is the right decision, that the right decision was absolutely made to have my oldest son removed from my care when my ex-husband and I divorced in 2011. I know that I stayed in Tennessee. I know that had I stayed in Tennessee, a small town with no career prospects and no family, I would either be in jail, prison, or dead. My parents had moved to Ohio while I was married due to a job transfer from my father. After the divorce, I moved to Ohio and began working on my sobriety. I have been clean since 2/15/2012. Full disclosure, I take Suboxone to stay clean. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I think it's a prescribed thing to get you off opiates. Like the pill thing and all that is just, killed my grandmother. But I don't know a lot about it personally. I know some people view that not counting as clean, but it has led me to a relatively normal, productive life where I contribute to our society. I met Derek, the father of my youngest son, Phoenix, at a restaurant one afternoon. I was meeting up with a friend from work for dinner, and Derek was there with his father. We are smokers, so we were sitting in the outside patio section of the restaurant. I was smitten the second I laid eyes on him. There was just something about how he smiled at me and the interaction I watched between him and his father. After seeing that Derek was noticing me as much as I was him, I gathered up the courage and approached him at the specific section set aside for the smokers. I introduced myself and we started chatting, small talk and all that fun flirty stuff that happens when you initially meet someone. The date was 10/17/2012. Definitely too soon to start dating after beginning my sobriety, but hindsight is 2020. And if I hadn't gone down this path, I wouldn't have my youngest son. The courtship between Derek and I was textbook narcissistic love bombing. I had never experienced anything so intense and truly believed I had met the one, my soulmate, someone that loved me regardless of my ugly past. Derek wanted to know everything about my life, what I had gone through, what he could do to make sure none of my relationship fears came true. Ha ha. He also had his poor me story ready, and I empathized with everything this kind, caring, and had experienced throughout his life. I still do on some matters, but I also realize that I'm only hearing Derek's version of these injustices. Derek lived with his mother, Liz, due to recently being released from prison. It wasn't his fault. He took the blame for his ex-wife. Yeah. Red flags. I mean, coming off being an addict and you're approaching a guy, not that you knew he came out of prison, but ends up being a prisoner, I mean, I would say you're not haven't addressed what's leading you to these type of people to begin with. And because his parents had separated during these 3.5 years he was incarcerated, Derek's mother needed his help, and he couldn't just abandon her like his father had. Well, what was he incarcerated for? That would help to know. I couldn't judge, really. Well, it depends if what he was charged with. I couldn't judge, really. I was also living with my parents due to a series of poor life choices. I was introduced to his mother and his son, Maddox, within a couple of weeks. Was part of the family. Derek's mother had been granted full custody of Maddox while Derek was incarcerated because his ex-wife was an addict that also could not care for Maddox. I also think it's important to note here that Derek and Liz's home is less than a mile away from me and my parents' home. I officially moved in with Derek, Liz, and Maddox sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas 2012. I was given an engagement ring on Christmas 2012. It was without a doubt a whirlwind of a courtship. I expressed to Derek that I wanted to have another child. Yes, strongly influenced by losing custody of my oldest. Derek loved the idea and he dearly wanted a real family. As our relationship progressed, Derek pressed for us to start attempting to get pregnant. I expressed my concern about getting pregnant at that point because I was on Suboxone, and my research into pregnancies that occur while on that medication showed the babies were born addicted to the medication and would likely spend weeks in NICU being weaned off the medication, especially putting a newborn through withdrawal. I gotta ask you here. I gotta ask you here, Athena. You moved back to Ohio to be with your parents to help you get sober, and your parents are letting you just jump in on Suboxone, trying to get, like, who's looking out for you here? Why are you drawn to people like this? How did you end up addicted in the first place? I think I have a pretty good idea, being that if you went there to get sober, to be behind your parents, and you're going up to a guy who ends up being in prison and immediately moving in with him, his daughter, thinking about getting pregnant, and you're still on Suboxone, like, you're just not making good decisions and nobody's guiding you. When I suggested waiting until I gotten off the medication before becoming pregnant, Derek became distraught. What, are you having second thoughts about being with me? You really don't love me the way you say you do, etc. I would then spend the rest of the day reassuring him, of course, not the case. I was only thinking, what about what our would-be child would have to endure? I became pregnant in February of 13, so 2 months later, and you're not recognizing this behavior at this point. I mean, I have a lot of stories of ex-addicts finding old ex-addicts. I mean, they're almost identical, and they all go down the same road. I mean, they still argue like they're addicts. This is how addicts argue with each other. Derek went to all the doctor's appointments with me, was there when the doctor discussed the possible outcomes of what would happen once our child was born. It varied from child to child. Some are released as normal with minimal evidence of addiction. Some spend a few additional days past the mother's release for monitoring. Some spend weeks in the NICU being treated for addiction. What are you doing? I mean, like I said, I'm not that familiar with what Suboxone is, but if it's this hardcore, obviously it's like another drug. Oh, I know what Suboxone. All right, I do know what Suboxone is now. I was heartbroken thinking about what could be in store for my baby. Derek was certain that our baby would be among the relative few that were released with their mother, showing no signs of addiction. I think the doctor allowed Derek to believe that fantasy as it happened. My Suboxone doctor was also my OBGYN. Regardless, we had a baby on the way. I'm not going to rehash all the incidents that occurred throughout our 1.5 year relationship. I will boil it down to some key factors I think play into Derek's sickness. He has a very strange relationship with his mother. She said on multiple occasions in front of me that she would fuck him if he wasn't my son. Oh. Yeah, no wonder he's a drug addict. Cornered him in the kitchen, attempting to grab his butt and kiss him on the mouth, saying, "What? You don't want to show Athena how close we really are?" Derek would untangle himself from Liz and tell her to cut it out. His relationship with his father, from Derek and Liz's mouth, mind you, was based on hardcore partying starting at the age of 14, getting Derek to drop out of school to help his father's home building business, work travel that took Derek on the road, living in a hotel room with his father who was drinking, drugging, and bringing prostitutes back into the room. I then also came to find out that Derek has a minimum of 5 other children, not including Maddox or our soon-to-be child. Derek has 0 contact with any of those children and has allowed the majority of them to go into foster homes. And of course, all his exes were crazy whores that done him wrong in one way or another. Well, if they're in foster homes, then they're just as big of drunk junkies as he is. Look, if you're not seeing this here, Athena, okay, the Suboxone is probably clouding your brain. He saw you just as another junkie whore. I saw the red flags early on. I ignored them. I was stupid, no excuses there. I was blindly in love with Derek and everything, and gave him everything I had, my soul included. I had never treated anyone as good as I treated Derek. I wanted to soothe all the pain he had endured as a child. I wanted to show him that there really was a woman in the world that would never do wrong by him. I wanted nothing more than to love him and do anything I could to make him happy. Cheating, check. I ignored the blatant proof that he was running around on me. I was pregnant, working full-time, and caring for my new family. Derek would steal my car, phone, debit card, and disappear for a night or two, always returning with ridiculous cover stories for why he couldn't come back home or even answer my phone calls to my phone that he had. I don't understand how you could go disappear for 2 days and you have any cover story. There is no cover story. Nobody's going to accept a repeated 2-day cover story where your phone and your car, nobody, unless you want to believe it. This is what happens in addiction, though. There was a grand time he had at one point triangulating a woman that lived 2 doors down that he was sleeping with while I was at work, then coming home to me once I was off work, having his mother, Liz, run interference and cover up for his infidelity. That was a mess of gaslighting. And again, where is your family in all of this? Physical abuse, check. He knocked me out cold in front of his father because I didn't want him to take my car out one evening after he had already started drinking. Pushed me down the stairs when I wanted to leave, go visit my parents for a few hours. The instances of physical abuse are too many to name, and I personally don't like going through them all. I stayed, hoping it would stop. He said it would. He'd stop drinking, go to counseling, AA meetings, whatever it took not to lose me. None of those things happened, of course. They don't change. They only get worse. When I reflect on all the stuff I allowed, I'm ashamed of my idiocy. 12/12/2013, Phoenix, our son was born. At first it seemed we were going to luck out and Phoenix would be one of the rare cases of Suboxone babies that would be released with me. Unfortunately, the 3rd day he started showing withdrawal signs and was admitted to the NICU. So I have to assume that you just kept taking the Suboxone even though you were pregnant? I guess because you're going to go through it. how did you get pregnant? I mean, it's like you just didn't end up. You must have made another bad decision to get pregnant. Derek was outraged and ended up being escorted out of the NICU for his behavior. It was my fault that our son was now in the NICU. Yes, I accept that responsibility because I should have been steadfast in the request to wait till I was fully off the medication before allowing myself to become pregnant. Derek again stole my keys, car, phone, and debit cards and disappeared for 2 days. Since I had been discharged from the hospital after delivering Phoenix, I was no longer afforded the hospital meals, meaning a crucial point for me to be breastfeeding my son I could barely do because I had no money to purchase food. A mother cannot truly nourish their child if they themselves are not eating or drinking full healthy meals. I was only drinking water for those 2 days. Thankfully, my parents tracked my phone, located my car, damaged, and other belongings at some woman's home. They brought my belongings back to me and helped make sure I was eating and getting some rest. I stayed in the NICU for 2.5 weeks with our son, never leaving as they have shower facilities and reclining chairs for sleeping that parents of NICU babies can use as much as possible. I'm sorry, and I'm going to ask the question again. Your parents are barely lifting a finger, it seems. They tracked your stuff down before they checked if you were okay. Derek's mom, Liz, no help at all. I believe I saw the writing on the wall and that the end was near, so she stopped faking concern for me and Phoenix's well-being. See, I had been roped in by her as well. Liz welcomed me into her home in the beginning solely to be a buffer for when Derek went on one of his rampages, someone that was able to contribute to all the household bills after Derek lost entire paychecks or his employer screwed him over. Yeah, and a babysitter for Maddox. I wish I could say mother figure, but it was made clear that was not my role. That belonged to Liz. When she concluded that I was nearing the end of my rope, I was no longer the daughter she never had or the best thing that could ever happen to her Derek. Phoenix was released on 12/31/2013. During my stay in the NICU, Derek made a few attempts to show what a wonderful father he could be, to show how remorseful he was for everything he had done. And all that he wanted was his family to be together. The initial time he was escorted out of the hospital was only for that instance, and he visited us 3 or 4 times for 2 or 3 a week for 2 or 3 hours. I again brought into it, and upon release from the hospital, Phoenix and I went back to stay with Derek. And where are your parents and all this? Again, continuing to allow their addicted daughter to be a 1/19/2014, Maddox's birthday. That was the day I left Liz and Derek's home. I had been up all night, normal nursing a newborn, sleeping issues, but also dreading Derek's arrival. He had again stolen my keys, car, phone, and debit card in the middle of the night. I knew what to expect from all the previous instances of these actions before. I heard the front door open and Derek stumble around on the floor above. I grabbed the spare set of keys I made that Derek was unaware of, picked up the landline phone, and called my parents to ask them to unlock the door so Phoenix and I could come. This was around 6:30 a.m., 3 feet of snow outside, and the temperature was around minus 15 degrees with the wind chill factor. I grabbed my son, my keys stuffed in my pocket so he didn't see them. I started to the stairs that led to the main floor that the home exits. I walked quietly up the stairs, prayed that maybe he had gone to the upper floor where the bathroom was and I wouldn't have to cross his path. Not that lucky. I encountered Derek in the living room 10 feet from my escape. He had that look I knew all too well. It was clear that he had gotten into some sort of physical altercation during his night out due to several bruises on his face. Derek, please go downstairs and get some rest. You've had a long night and it's Maddox's birthday today. We have a party today. Please don't ruin your son's birthday. I was doing my best not to poke the bear per se. I hadn't decided to finally leave Derek at this point. I had Phoenix in my arms, and at that moment I was only trying to remove my month-old son from the chaos I knew was soon to come. Derek just stood there reeking of liquor and rage radiating off him. He started towards me and shoved me down. I curl around over Phoenix to minimize whatever was about to happen. Then Maddox, bless his heart, he's been through so much already, pokes his head down from the upper floor where his room is. Dad. Derek was caught off guard, and as soon as he turned to answer Maddox, I hopped up with Phoenix and ran outside. As I run out, I hear Liz and Maddox trying to talk to Derek. What's going on? Where have you been? Dad, is my party still today? Derek pays them no mind and starts after me laughing because I have the keys. I have the keys wherever do you think you're going? I run to the car, noticeably wrecked again, but put Phoenix in the car seat, no straps, no time. I run to the driver's side door, hop in, lock the doors, and pray that my car will start and get me that mile to my parents' home. Why aren't your parents coming there? Is what I'm asking, is my question. You moved there to be with them so you could get sober, and they do nothing for you. It does. I drive that mile to my parents, not knowing if I will ever go back to that place again. Side note, I get a call on my parents' landline shortly after arriving from Liz asking about Derek. Shocker, right? What happened? Why is his face all bruised up? Is he okay? My mind is blown. I'm sorry, what? My response was simply, I don't know. You'll have to ask him. However, I do know he shoved me to the floor as I was holding Phoenix, and I will not be returning to your home again. And I hang up the phone. After moving back to my parents' home and with police assistance to collect my belongings from Derek's home, they were all too happy to assist in the recovery of my belongings since they had been called to Derek's home over 10 times in the year and a bit that I had lived there, always encouraging me to leave and press charges. I still, in that warped, codependent, narc-abused mind of mine, hoped that leaving would finally make Derek change. That he would want that family back he claimed he wanted so much. Sure enough, Derek began to reach out, asking for chances to see us. After discussing it with my family, there shouldn't even be a discussion at this point. I agreed to let him come over and visit with Phoenix on the condition that it would only be when my father, minimum, was home. Not to monitor his every move, as my parents were going to stay in their room and allow Derek and Maddox and I use of the rest of the home for the visit. The other offers were to go on walks around the neighborhood or visit the neighborhood park. However, without fail, every day scheduled for a visit, Derek would either completely disappear with no phone call, saying he couldn't make it or answer any of my calls. I stopped reaching out to try to initiate these visits, deciding if he really wanted to see his son, who lived less than a mile away, he knew how to contact me, which he did. But now he wanted to talk about us, how he could fix us, move us back to his mother's house, and prove himself. How can I prove myself if you aren't here to see the changes? That's when I made it crystal clear that there was no more hope for a relationship between him and me. I was only offering him a chance not to lose another child. That's when he made it clear if I wasn't a part of the bargain, he wanted nothing to do with it. Then he met his next supply, Ashley W. Ashley was, of course, told what a horrible person I was and how I mistreated the entire family and refused Derek to see Phoenix. Derek then decided not only to send me pictures of him and Ashley in love, but also gave her my phone number so she could start harassing me as well, bringing up my past mistakes and how awful I was not to let Derek see his son. I'm embarrassed to admit that I fell right into the crazy-making mess. Ashley lasted for about 4 to 6 months, then left for the exact same reasons I did. We have both since apologized and are civil. around this point in time, I started looking for answers to all the insanity I've been through. This wasn't the typical bad relationship or even typical abusive relationship. I discovered the narcissistic. I was floored by all the similarities and began my research. After leaving Derek, I was shattered. I didn't know what happened. I was lost. I swore off dating. I would not be one of those women bringing men around my son only to have them gone in a few months or a year. I decided all my time to be furthering my career, raising my youngest, attempting to reestablish the relationship with my oldest, figure out what made me such an easy mark for that monster, and make my own way in the world. I have not entertained any notion of dating, nor do I go out with Phoenix. I take Phoenix to daycare Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Work the same days with the hours of 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Pick him up from daycare, go grocery shopping or home, and start our daily ritual of cars, Legos, and reading. Weekends we sleep in teeny bit later and participate in soccer. My father is the only other man Phoenix knows and will stay that way until the time is right. Anyways, I went no contact, broke no contact, went no contact again, and stayed no contact. The time I broke no contact was it was April 2017 when Derek reached out via email asking if I would agree to a meeting at a large McDonald's Playland so Maddox could see his brother Phoenix. I agreed with the stipulation that Derek was in no way to identify himself as Phoenix's father. You can't do that. You can't expect, I don't care what he's done. You can't do that. You can't have him deny he's his own father to what? No, you can't do that. Derek said that made sense and was a reasonable request, so we met. It wasn't a reasonable request. I could tell right off the bat Derek had not changed in the slightest, but I was not going to supply his need for attention or concern. I ended up taking Maddox back to my parents for that weekend, and the boys had a blast playing. Plans were made to see Maddox the next weekend. The weekend arrived, and guess what? No answer to my several calls. Phoenix was devastated. I never heard back from them. I understand that he was a flight risk and he was going to do this. But to tell a guy as he's standing in front of his kid, you can't acknowledge that I'm your father, that's wrong. You're better off just being honest with Phoenix and telling him your father's got a lot of problems and you can't see him right now. Not this bullshit. You're still playing games with him. You're still hoping he's going to change. And he's not. And he's not. And I think the Suboxone's part of the problem because you're still thinking like a junkie. You're still living and thinking like a junkie. And the fact that your parents would let you anywhere near this guy is a huge red flag of where your problems all arise from. A couple weeks later, I ran into Derek's sister-in-law at a nearby grocery store, and she told me Derek was in jail for beating another woman. This woman's name was Ashley as well, Ashley S. After pulling up the public record and finding out who she was, I reached out to her via Facebook DM. Bad idea. Like, bet you still won't let it go. You're still trifling in this guy's life. You're not no contact from shit. I explained who I was and that I was extremely, extremely sorry to hear what she had experienced. Ashley S. was appreciative and we started talking. I found out there was an extreme smear campaign going on against her on Facebook. I felt guilty. All the times I had called the police after Derek put his hands on me, if only I had followed through and filed charges on him, maybe he wouldn't be able to hurt this woman. He'd be able to hurt another. He's going to keep hurting women. After serious consideration, I pulled the screenshots of the text messages between Derek and I where he flat out admits to the abuse and posted them on my page along with the public information of him being placed in prison with maximum sentence one can get in Ohio for the assault on Ashley S. Derek's flying monkeys stopped with their nastiness after I left and have left Ashley S. and me alone. And yes, I did receive 3 collect calls to my parents' landline from Derek in prison, which of course I declined. I will be filing a restraining order before he is released on New Year's Eve 2018 and living at a different location, buying my own home in mid-2018. This is where I would greatly appreciate your advice. Should I remove my Facebook post? I did that solely for the purpose of exposing who he really is, and in the hopes no other woman will have to experience that madness. You can see my Facebook page. I have never spoke ill of Derek in a public forum until the Ashley S. incident, and now here. Is this breaking no contact? Because I know once he sees that, Derek will respond. Yeah, it is. I said that already. Stop trifling with this guy. You're not going to change him. Either through social media or his new previous flying monkeys email or physically showing up at my parents' home. Lastly, Phoenix has reached that age where he wants to know about Daddy. It is infrequent, and hasn't pressed me for answers. He was only 3, so it's easy to distract him to a different topic or simply explain that all families are different and that he is super lucky to have a mommy and pop-pop and Nana, my parents, who love and care about him so much. I realize that tactic will only work for so long. His pediatrician also said I will have to stop redirecting questions and answering more truthfully as age appropriate, for we don't want Phoenix feeling as though there are questions he cannot ask or problems he cannot come to me with. I just don't know what age appropriate response is right now. Phoenix is extremely smart. Well, I'm scared I'm going to mess it up. I would tell him the truth. Say your father's extremely sick and he's just not very safe to be around. Because that's the truth. He's not safe to be around. And to be quite honestly, with his track record of abandoning 5 other kids, I don't know why you would want to engage with him whatsoever if you don't have to. He's always going to come back to you looking for the supply until he realizes you're not going to give it to him. As long as you keep engaging with him, even on Facebook, even negatively, it's still the opportunity for him to talk to you. Thank you in advance for taking the time to read my email, even if it isn't put into a video. I hope a sponsor can get this email addressed, as I don't have the funds to spare at this moment. Haha, the joys of children with birthdays so close to Christmas. I love your channel, and after the holidays, I will send money to sponsor someone else that can use your help. I wish you and your family a wonderful holiday season, and thank you for all the time you put into your YouTube channel. Most sincerely, Althena. P.S. I've attached a photo. Very cute. No contact means no contact, Althena. Interacting directly to them on Facebook is a form of engaging him, and he's dangerous. As far as what you tell your 3-year-old son, I would tell him the truth. But you need to understand something here. It is very concerning that your parents would let you get abused like this for so long. That you had to sneak out of that house. You just told them to unlock the door. Instead of, if I got a call like that from Erin, I'd be like, I'm coming there. Oh, gee, I hope you get out and you make it with my 1-month-old grandchild. There's something really amiss there, Althena. And I hope you're repairing your relationship with your oldest child as well. because everything here is centered around you, more centered around you and your relationship with this dude. I mean, there was a long letter, and it was all about the abuse between you and him. But your question was about your child at the end. Be honest with him, okay? And you can't... I understand how dangerous he is, and I understand he's a bad guy. But to demand he deny that he's the child's father in front of the child, you can't do that. I don't care what he's done, that's wrong. You're better off just being honest. Always just be honest with the child of the narcissist. That's the best advice I can give you. That, and you need to look into what caused you to be attracted to these people to begin with. The drug use. And you should really look about trying to get off that Suboxone, because I think it's really clouding your judgment and making you still continue to think like an addict. This is how addicts interact. This is it. This is still going on. So, and I am real worried. The biggest red flag is you're telling your parents to unlock the door, and they're not, knowing all this shit is going on. Like, and they let you just go back, guy in prison, and this story and that. Like, everybody's got a story. Not everybody has a story. Okay? It's not normal. You're not going to keep just arbitrarily walking into these type of people. It's happening for a reason. So, I hope that helps. Thank you, Vincent, for sponsoring. Thank you, Athena, for sending in your story. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to help it succeed, grow, and expand. Keep going, because remember, this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you, this all goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email link in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.